Good evening. It's March 17th, 2026. This is a meeting of the Coeur d'Alene City Council, which I will call to order. The clerk will take the roll, please.
Gabriel.
Here.
Miller. Evans.
Here.
Wood.
Here.
Scheckler.
Here.
English.
Here.
Very good. For our invocation, I would like to invite David Bond from Compel Community Church up to the lectern. Please rise.
Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, what a humble privilege it is to be here this morning standing in front of these men and women, Lord, representing an almighty God that's for each one of us. I thank you for the opportunity to gather with those that have committed themselves to a life of service to this community. Father, I pray that you ask for wisdom, that you would grant that, and integrity and clarity for each and every person and every leader in this room. From Mayor Gookin to each councilman and woman represented in here today, to the men and women in blue standing all around this room, I just want to give you praise for just what their lives represent to this community. Father, I pray that you help decisions made here reflect justice, compassion, and what is best for all people of Coeur d'Alene. Father, I pray you give patience in disagreement, unity in purpose, and humility in leadership. We ask for your guidance and blessing over this city and these people. Father, I pray for even during the time of public comment and presentation, Lord, that you would calm the nerves and put them at ease. Let them rest in the preparation that they've put in to be here tonight, and let them represent their passion before this council this morning. Father, thank you for what you're going to do, and thank you for just this opportunity, Lord. You're such a good God, so worthy of all of our praise. Thank you in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay, I will be making one, which is simply moving an item. So we'll be taking item number H7C off the consent calendar. It's up there on the screen, which is the approval of a construction contract to Big Sky ID Corp. For the Mill River Lift Station upgrade project in the amount of $884,037. And we'll be putting that under other business as item number 1 or 0, whatever comes first. Thank you. So we have a couple of proclamations. First, I'd like Councilmember English to read our proclamation for the National Child and Adult Care Food Program Week of March 15th through the 21st, 2026. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, you bet. Whereas one of the basic rights of children, as set forth in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by Eleanor Roosevelt in 1948, is the right to basic nutrition. Caring for the children must be our nation's first priority. And whereas, since the inception of the Child and Adult Care Food Program, CACFP, in 1968, it has granted our children the best possible foundation in life and benefited many adults, which is vital to our state's long-term health. And whereas the two fundamental goals of the CACFP are that children serviced by this program will be well-nourished during their crucial early years, while concurrently learning healthy eating behaviors that will last their lifetime. Nutritious diets are foundational for emotional, mental, and physical health. And whereas we acknowledge the child and adult care providers, nutrition educators, program specialists and staff, state and local professionals and parents who contribute to the success of this outstanding program. And whereas the CACFP community will continue its commitment to the benefits of nutritious eating for children and adults, together, as Americans, we can make a difference in the lives of the youngest and most vulnerable children. Now, therefore, I, Dan English, on behalf of Daniel K. Gookin, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, do hereby proclaim March 15th, to 21st, 2026 as National Child and Adult Care Food Program Week. I urge our citizens and all agencies and organizations to unite on that week in observance of the necessity of the Child and Adult Care Food Program to provide food security to children, individuals with disabilities, and older adults in our community. In witness, therefore, Mayor Gookin hereto set his hand and caused the Great Seal of Coeur d'Alene to be affixed this 17th day of March, St. Patrick's Day, 2026.
Is Tina Clifton here with us today? Oh, you're on behalf?
I am on behalf.
Oh, very good. Could you please come forward
Absolutely.
and state your name, please?
Absolutely. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Gookin, City Council members. My name is Scott Ferguson. I'm the Executive Director for St. Vincent de Paul, North Idaho, where the Child and Adult Food Program lives and exists. This evening, we are so honored and so grateful for the proclamation to dedicate the efforts in our community to nutritious meals and to providers of daycare providers across our state. Locally here, we have around 43 home and center providers that work diligently every day to ensure that the children that they are in care of are cared for on behalf of the parents that obviously are in a relationship with them and the community that surrounds them. Today, we're so grateful for this proclamation as we understand that the impact alone in 2025 was 700,000 meals reimbursed in our 5 northern counties. This equates to around $385,000 back to these organizations to provide more spaces, more opportunities for families to take advantage of a critical resource now more than ever. So today, thank you for recognizing the value of these workers. Thank you for the emphasis of the work that they do, and we are so grateful for this proclamation. Thank you.
And Councilmember English is going to present it to you. Thank you. I have a second proclamation to read on National Social Worker Week, March 22nd through 28, 2026. Whereas for more than a century, social workers have strengthened communities and improved the lives of millions of Americans in hospitals, schools, social service agencies, and all levels of government. Whereas the 2026 theme, Social Workers Uplift, Defend, Transform, recognizes the steadfast spirit of social workers as they bring hope, healing, and justice to the communities they serve. And whereas social workers follow a code of ethics rooted in equity, human dignity, and fight against injustice, advocating for the rights and well-beings of individuals and families. And whereas social workers support people facing trauma, loss, behavioral health challenges, systemic barriers, and play an essential role in helping communities recover from natural disasters, public health crises, and other hardships. And whereas the profession continues to grow, with more than 810,000 social workers nationwide contributing to a more just and compassionate society through leadership, advocacy, education, and service, now therefore I, Daniel K. Gookin, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do hereby proclaim March 22nd to 28, 2026 as National Social Worker Week, and call upon all residents to join the National Association of Social Workers and the City of Coeur d'Alene in celebrating the essential contribution of social workers who uplift, defend, and transform our communities every day. And if Megan Coons and whoever else you would like to come up to the lectern.
All the social workers that are in the room, please come up here. We're going to take a photo. Celebrate us.
All right. And their dog, okay.
Good job, Megan.
Hi,
Megan.
everyone. Mayor Gookin, Dan, other council members, thank you for taking the time to recognize us social workers here in Coeur d'Alene in the greater area during National Social Work Month, which is March. I just have a few words, and I'm certainly not as prepared as others have been, so please forgive me on that, but I'm just going to go ahead. Again, my name is Megan Dardis-Coons. I'm a Master of Social Work and Clinical Assistant Professor at Boise State University School of Social Work. I've been a social worker for 19 years, but this isn't about me. I'm here to honor and celebrate my colleagues who came up earlier in this incredible profession that is social work. As mentioned, there are approximately 810,000 social workers in the U.S., and a few of them are in the room right now. Just a few other statistics. Social workers are the nation's largest group of mental health providers in the country. And interestingly, 4 out of 5 social workers are women, which I think is fitting to celebrate our profession during Women's History Month, which is also March. And then just in closing, I have a few words for my colleagues throughout the room, so please bear with me. Social workers are the everyday heroes without capes, tackling life's messiest problems, armed with endless empathy and an uncanny ability to find resources where mere mortals see chaos. I heard some chuckles. That might have been from social workers in the room. They navigate through bureaucratic jungles, unraveling red tape like it's a party game, and offering tissues for tears and a side of sass. They're the life coaches of the soul, the crisis managers of humanity, and the masters of turning what now into we got this. So keep shining your capeless glory, and remember that the world would be a much messier place without your wit and wisdom. So thank you again for honoring us next week, and thank you for all the social workers and others in the room that love us. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan, and to all the social workers. We appreciate what you do for our community. And we will be moving on right now to public comments. I only have one person signed up for public comments. Chris Meyer is here. There we go.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much. Appreciate the lovely proclamations tonight. My name is Chris Meyer. I'm here on public comment representing Parkwood Business Properties. We're community real estate developers and investors here. I had the privilege of participating in the earlier focus group involved with the community data gathering associated with the Downtown Core Working Group that's going to make their presentation tonight. It was a great opportunity to be consulted, bring in some outside private property ownership experiences there, and looking forward to seeing what our esteemed group has to present to us tonight and think about how we as a community wrestle with that. The report that I believe came out in the council packet came out on Friday, so some of this new information is pretty fresh for those of us who are still absorbing it. So my comment tonight is simply to say this is great. We're making progress as a community in trying to grapple with some challenging issues. It would encourage the council to exercise their judgment and patience, to be sure you're engaging with the other folks who are invested in downtown, private property owners, business owners, and others who have consequences of some of the potential policy decisions in front of you tonight. So I think this is a methodical process. We're going through it in a rational fashion, but just to be sure that we're making sure we hear all points of view before we move forward with any policy decisions. So thank you for your judgment and leadership of our community. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. And Chris was the only one who signed up for public comment. Does anyone else want to make public comment? Ms. Knutson would like to make public comment.
I didn't know if it was bad manners to thank someone who's going to be mentioned later on, and I was informed that it was not bad manners. So I just wanted to say, on behalf of Specialized Needs Recreation and the board, we wanted to say thank you to Bill Greenwood for all the work he has done for recreation, for people with disabilities in our community for the last long time. And he is leaving our city and Specialized Needs Recreation in great hands so far with Adam, and we are excited things going forward, and thank you. Thanks, Bill. We appreciate you very much, and we're going to miss you, so don't be a stranger. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thank you, Suzanne. And Anyone else want to make public comments? We do have a hearing later, and it's a separate sign-up. If you've signed up for that, don't worry, you'll be called later. So now we move on to council announcements. Anyone on the city council have an announcement? Kiki, thank you for joining us.
I apologize for my tardiness. I actually was driving back from the airport and got caught up in a little traffic on the way here. And I was coming back from the Housing and Economic Development Summit in Boise. I was presenting to that group. It was about a little under 700 people from all over the state. And I was presenting to them some of the housing work that's been happening here for the last 5 years. I will tell you the number one thing that economic development directors, housing officials, legislators, everyone was talking about is that our housing challenges or crisis, depending on what numbers you're looking at, are just escalating, not only in the state of Idaho, but across the country. And so the need to address that for local workers and things that we need to do to be able to keep our community strong is just becoming more and more in dire need. So I will hope that there's going to be a summary of that meeting, and I will share it with you all when and if it comes out.
Thank you, Kiki. Anyone else have council comments? Dan English?
It just flashed out, but it will come back. That's happened to me before, but, okay. Yep.
Happens to all of us.
Remind me later. So, Mayor, that's me. Bill Greenwood, could you come forward to the lectern, please? So Bill Greenwood is leaving us. He's retiring after how many?
27 years.
27 years
How
with the
dare you,
city.
Bill?
27 years. So we really appreciate what Bill has done for our city. And Bill has contributed a lot, and he's fun. Everyone knows you're fun. One of the
Fun department.
one of the fun stories I like that Bill told me was about when he first started. I don't know if you were first starting or you were just had been working here a while, but he's out there. He's working in the parks. You're working in City Park,
Right.
and you were blowing. You had the backpack on, and you're doing the blower and stuff. And he takes a break, and he sits at the seawall, and he looks at the park, and he's looking at the lake, and he's like, "What a great job!" And wouldn't we all love to have a job that we love and contribute in a way that Bill has? And I just really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I thank you so much. So on behalf of the city, I'm going to present you the key to the city.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your service. We'll miss you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll
Thank
miss
you
you
so
too.
much.
We did a lot of good stuff. When I started, we had 10 or 11 parks. We have 32 now. So it's working with you folks, and I think I've worked under 6 mayors, 5 administrators, if I count Dan Dybel, it might be 6, and probably 28 different council people. And it's been a glorious time. I've had a great time. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bill.
Bill.
And now that thought came circling back.
Going back to Dan English.
Which we have actually, kind of a comment and a question. We've talked about I think it's a Hilton property or something, but down on Sherman, a few blocks away, that, was concern about it was sinking in, and they poured
Marriott.
concrete. But it seems to me that it's just been sitting idle, because I drive by there a couple of times a day for the last few weeks. I don't know if but anybody know any?
They're working on it.
What?
They're working on it.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
This
no.
is the Marriott we're talking?
This is the Marriott at 6th and Sherman.
Yeah.
And they've been working on it. If I walk by it every day, and they're always getting something done. So, yeah,
Okay.
so they are.
Well, I'm reassured.
Pretty soon that bar will be open, and we can all go. I do have a sad note here. If we could put that up on the screen, if you can put it up on the screen. Okay, so it's going to be, there it is. Thank you. So a lot of you may recognize this woman. This was Kathy Goodwin, and she was a regular here at City Council every year when we would do our Safe Boating Proclamation. So I'd like you to join me in extending our heartfelt condolences to her family. While she wasn't a city employee, many at the city fondly remember her as the Life Jacket Lady. Each year she visited council to speak about the importance of boater safety and the simple actions that save lives on the water. Kathy served 29 years with the Coast Guard Auxiliary and was deeply passionate about promoting safe boating practices. Her dedication to protecting others on the water made a lasting impact in our lake community. She'll be greatly missed, and we hope her example inspires others to continue her important work in promoting boater safety. We honor her many years of service and extend our deepest sympathies to her family and loved ones during this difficult time. So thank you all. I hope you all remember her showing up.
I also would acknowledge that she worked in the elections department when I was there for years and years, and was just a right-hand person of Dee Dee Beard, and just, Kathy was a really good pillar of the community.
Yeah, it's going to be different now, moving forward with our Safe Boating Month. So we'll be moving on right now to item H, which is the consent calendar, and we are pulling item 7C from that calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve consent calendar with item 7C pulled, including resolution number 26-024.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Evans,
Yes.
Scheckler,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. So item I-0, we will be asking Mike Anderson from our wastewater treatment plant to come up and discuss the wastewater collection system construction contract award bid with Big Sky ID Corp.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this evening. It should be a little bit of a rehash because this is we're talking about awarding general construction services for a project which you're already aware of, but it's a big dollar item, so I appreciate the opportunity to bring it forward to our public. So I'm bringing forward as mentioned, construction contract to Big Sky, and let's talk about what that is. So this is part of our 25-26 fiscal year wastewater collection system capital improvement projects. So every year, the wastewater department puts forward a certain amount of money to maintain the pipes in the ground. This year, we're looking at maintaining one of the pump stations. Most of our flow comes to us via gravity, but we do have about 10 or 11 pump stations that just kind of pump it over a hill, and then it flows by gravity back down to our plant. This contract is $884,000, as you mentioned, and Big Sky was our lowest bidder. We went out to bid as per Idaho code, and Big Sky came back at the lowest bid. So this lift station was installed in the early 2000s, and over in Mill River area, you can imagine there was a lot less input going into the lift station than there is now, or we intend to have in the future. We knew we would have to upsize this lift station. At the time, we didn't build it to the full build-out stage because having big pumps and big pipes pumping not much flow is not a recipe for longevity of mechanical equipment. So we intentionally built it to the proper size at the time and collected a surcharge fee, knowing that I'd be coming forward to you in St. Patrick's Day 2026 to ask for you to, can we now build onto this? So what is the project? You can see here on Grand Mill Lane in the center, in the median, is actually there's a wastewater lift station hidden behind some nice foliage and hidden from view as we try to keep wastewater. And it is currently fed from basically the north and the south. What our project's going to do to increase the capacity of it is this dark green line is more or less representing, we're going to take this, the wastewater from the north, kind of wrap it around, and then tie it into the line feeding the lift station from the south. So what that does is instead of having two feeds going to the lift station, there'll be just a single feed. It allows us to plug it off, and fill up. There'll be a big manhole here, and that manhole will fill up and basically act as a mini wet well, if you will. We'll drop a larger pump in there, and we'll be able to bypass the lift station in the future, which we can't really do easily now, and maintain it. Get in there. You can imagine how rough wastewater is on infrastructure, concrete and pumps and all that stuff. So we got to get in there occasionally and rebuild it. This will allow us the opportunity to do that. As well, exiting the lift station, there are two lines, a 6-inch and an 8-inch. We currently always utilize the 6-inch line, and we knew, again, when we put this in, we'd be upgrading it, so we put in an 8-inch line. So we're able to utilize that. We're able to utilize a lot of the infrastructure when we put it in. We put it in with this stuff knowing it's cheaper to do it now than it will be in 2026. We do have to get in there, do some little work on valves and things like that as well. So what do the bids come in like? You can see we've gotten 5 bidders. There were 2 schedules, Schedule A and Schedule B, and that's not add-alts, that's just different schedules of the construction project. Mainly, Schedule A is, one of them is for pipes in the ground and the other one is for the valves, basically, but it's just the way we broke it out. And you can see here that Big Sky came in as the lowest bid and were found to be responsive both by our engineers and the city's legal department. So let's talk dollars. The total construction cost is $1.2 million. This year, we've budgeted about $900,000. So the construction cost is $884,000, and then you'll recall that a couple months ago we talked about engineering, so obviously we have to design this and all that. So the total cost comes to $1.2 million, which is, my math is correct, more than $900,000. Last year, we underspent on this line item by about $315,000. So 900 plus 300 gets us right about to where we need to be. I will be coming forward to you in August or so in a request to amend this year's budget, because obviously $900,000 won't cover it. But the savings from last year will offset it, obviously. As well, you recall that I mentioned we were charging a surcharge for this project, and that is a little over $400,000 right now. We'll continue to collect that. Now, that's not everybody in the city is paying that. The idea is it only affects people who are using this lift station, so only the people who are going to be using this lift station pay it. It's sort of a specialized fee that we have a few of those throughout our collection system. So again, this should be relatively old hat to you, but again, it is a big dollar item. We're excited to finally get this done. We've been waiting 25 years to get it done. And I would ask that you award the construction contract to Big Sky, and would stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Anderson?
Mr. Mayor, I believe
Christie.
I made this motion in general services, and it's only been 45 years, so we got time. Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve. Wait a second, I gotta find it. Item C, approval of construction contract to Big Sky ID Corp. for the Mill River Lift Station Upgrade Project in the amount of $884,037.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on this motion? All right, roll call, please.
Evans,
Yes.
Scheckler,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. So we're going to move on with the regular order of business. Item number I1, which is the Downtown Core Working Group update presented by Hillary Patterson, Community Planning Director, Sean Holm, Senior Planner, and Kevin Jester, DC Working Group Member. Hillary, please take it away.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you. We are back before you. This is our third update to City Council on the work we've been doing that started about 2 years ago. So we are here to give you an update, let you know what we've been doing, and seek some direction from you on how we should move forward, specifically related to any changes to the zoning code, design guidelines, looking at height, bulk, spacing, such as that. Oops, sorry. This mouse is a little more reactive. So our working group, we've had about 14 to 18 members that have been actively involved since the beginning, and they are listed here. We have many of them in the room. If you guys want to raise your hands or acknowledge who you are. Thank you to all of you that have been helping us since the beginning. We have representation from our Planning and Zoning Commission, Design Review Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, Downtown Association as well as city staff. And then we've had an intern, James Barber, who has been helping us. We were able to pay him last fiscal year, but we didn't have money this year, and so he's been continuing to volunteer and help us with a lot of the GIS modeling work. So a big shout out to him as well. So thank you, working group members. As I mentioned, we started this about 2 years ago, and we've had 27 meetings, so this has been a lot of work for these volunteers. So the scope of work was for staff to evaluate and recommend updates to the downtown development regulations, so our zoning code for the downtown, as well as design guidelines in response to community feedback. There was a lot of concern once the Marriott and some other projects were approved and getting started in downtown about maybe the lack of teeth of our design review commission and height and the tower spacing and all of that. So that was really the impetus for this. Right, the downtown core map is shown here. So this is really what we're talking about, the area of downtown where the downtown zoning applies. And you can see in the different kind of overlays and different colors, there's certain areas where the Design Review Commission reviews projects. And then there's another area that you can see where the 220 feet is allowed, but it's not reviewed by the commission. So in this fuchsia is the commission review. And then there's an overlay area that makes it a little bit complicated to implement the code, where there's an underlying zoning and then there's the downtown core. So we have come before you 2 times previously, and so this slide consolidates what has been your direction and feedback for us, that you really wanted us to be looking at view corridors, towers, and the impacts of towers on the downtown in general with shadows, how it affects the historic core. Preserving that charm was kind of a big thing, making sure we're not having oversized buildings or big bulky buildings that take up entire blocks, really focusing on more walkability and having the pedestrians be able to interface with the businesses, looking at parking, looking at our floor area ratio, so that we have in our code built in there that you can have bonuses if you do certain things, so evaluating those, incorporating public safety, making sure we get public input, and then doing a lot to do the modeling and provide those visualizations for yourselves as well as for the public. And then at our last check-in, you had also suggested that maybe we should do this in smaller bites, maybe a piecemeal changes rather than doing an overhaul, because there is so much work to be done with not only the development regulations, but the design guidelines. So our recommendations initially, which have changed, and I'll go through that. So we had come before you in 2025, and we were proposing that the height of the buildings would be limited on Front Avenue, Sherman Avenue, and Lakeside Avenue to 45 feet, which would be more consistent with the historic core, and that we would allow buildings of 110 feet tall on Coeur d'Alene Avenue west of 6th Street. At that time, we had not recommended anything for Indiana Avenue, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We were recommending no additional towers of 220 feet tall. We did recommend increasing the tower spacing from 50 feet, which it is now, to 80 feet, to incorporate more about historic preservation and historic design concepts, adding more teeth for Design Review Commission for their review and approval, and then modifying those floor area ratio bonuses. And we haven't done like a full-blown community-wide survey, but as part of that, we did do some outreach to community members. There was a link in one of the articles in the Coeur d'Alene Press and on social media that we were asking community members for input on, should we be evaluating the height in downtown? So we had just over 250 respondents that participated, and so you can see on this slide that the majority of people said yes, they should, and majority of those people live in Coeur d'Alene for at least 6 months of the year. And this slide shows what was the most common themes, so the top 10 themes. So the building height regulations was the most common response for what we should be looking at. There was the preservation, so historic preservation, kind of the downtown core and kind of the design guidelines of that, view protection, transportation and mobility, parking management, and just zoning and economic development in general. So I'm going to hand it over to Kevin Jester, who's on our stakeholder meeting. So we're going to kind of tag team this, and he's going to talk about our stakeholder meeting.
Thank you, Hillary. Mayor Gookin, council members, good evening. When I was asked to be a part of this as this working group, I didn't know what I was getting into, but it has been a very interesting and rewarding search as we've looked at our community and what our community has been and what our community is and what our community may become. I'm a longtime resident, 48 years here in Coeur d'Alene. With me, I bring that I am both a property owner and a business owner, retired, in downtown Coeur d'Alene. So I bring some of that with me as I was a part of this group. It was a wonderful mix of people on this working group. And I want you to know that we did our best to be objective in our thinking, to be comprehensive in our thinking, and to listen to what the stakeholders in this downtown core brought to us. So the stakeholders, as you can see right here, we had this meeting last September, and these were the stakeholders that were a part of that presentation. It was a good cross-section of building owners, developers, architects, engineers, preservation advocates. You can see the list here. So a very good cross-section, we thought, that took a look at this. Moving forward, Hillary. Oh, okay, got it. All right. Some of the questions that we looked at, and we broke into different focus groups and asked the same question. And now what I'm going to present to you in the next couple of slides is just data. And the data is for your consideration. Maybe you've had a chance to review this, I'm not sure. But the question was, do you think downtown height limits should be reviewed? Downtown residents, as you can see, architects, engineers, longtime residents, downtown property owners, downtown business owners. What I looked at when I saw this slide was just kind of the trend. What is the trend that I'm seeing here? And obviously the trend is in the green, which is yes. The one anomaly there is the architects, designers, and engineers, whom I have a little bit of experience with. And I think that some were definitely yes, some were definitely no, and some were just thinking, where's the next commission in terms of high-rise? What are we going to do? But I think you can see here, and you can probably draw your own conclusions from this data. Stakeholder feedback. When we had this meeting, and Chris Meyer, who presented a little bit earlier, was a part of that meeting. And I appreciate your comments, Chris, on this. And I want you to know we take your comments seriously as we move forward. What street level design elements should be required for new projects? Pedestrian protection. These were listed kind of in priority hierarchy. Pedestrian protection, storefront windows, engaging entrances, historic plaques, outdoor seating, and artwork. These were all things that came to the surface in our meetings. Height and tower locations. This was of particular interest, as you might imagine, as you have seen our city change over the past 10, 12 years, and with the introduction of towers. And what impact that has, both physically and perception-wise of our community. We looked at the height preferences by street. And so on this little diagram here, you see street names, and then the height preferences from 45 feet to the 220 feet. There's going to be some slides that are going to follow up here, and you'll see that graphically, which will make more sense when you see that. But this is, again, what we were looking at is for trends here. What are people saying? What are we hearing as we take a look at this? And so you can kind of see it's self-evident here on these numbers. And if you have any questions, hopefully write them down, and we'll try to address those at the end. Second question was, where should towers be allowed in the downtown area? And so this was also an interesting one as you take a look at it. And those are, again, listed as street and area. And on the right-hand side of that particular graph, interpretation of the notes. Most supported was Coeur d'Alene Avenue. Slight majority was on Lakeside Front Street. Slightly more opposition. Indiana Avenue, low support, and Sherman Avenue, low support. So really kind of, as you'll see in the graphics that are coming up, it suggests things in terms of the texture of the community, the height and volume of things that are happening. Got that? What additional changes to the code would you support? This was really interesting. Historic feature requirements was one that really came up high on the list. How do we keep the character and the history of this region and of this community intact in this community and not lose it? Was very pleased to see that, and it was, again, like I said, it was a surprise to see that rise to the top. Enhanced pedestrian elements, parking and vehicular access. As you all know, parking is always an issue. If I can't park in front of the store that I want to go to, we have a parking problem, even with all of the parking that we have provided in the past few years. So once again, we'll have to address that. Reduce maximum heights, increase building setbacks, stricter design review, and reduce base floor area ratio, and again, more on that. Modeling scenarios, Sean is going to come up and show you the pretty pictures that we were able to develop.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Hillary. All right, Mayor, City Council. So Hillary did this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to thank James Barber again. This is largely his section, what he has created and worked on over the last number of months. He's down in Moscow right now. I just wanted to throw a shout out to him and thank him again. He's spent many endless hours crafting the next following slides. So before we dive into the future, as Kevin has said, it's good to know what our current inventory is. And this is what that current inventory looks like in a 3D model. This is out over the lake, looking north by northeast from an elevated distance. And these towers that are shown here are all over 75 feet tall. So you can look as a kind of an elevated skyline of the city of Coeur d'Alene and where those currently exist. And then next, this is kind of it's a contextual heat map of height is what this is. And so the colors denote where the height currently is located. And you can see that it largely exists, and this is the same map but looking from above, along where the water is, and then the resort down here, which is a PUD outside of the downtown core, and then along Front Street, and then bookended here between 6th and 7th Streets. So as Hillary had mentioned earlier on the slide, and it was kind of grayed out on the side, is from the working group that we had met in April 15th and brought recommendations. This is what it looked like, and this is a hypothetical. We chose a lot of these locations based on existing conditions. So areas that have parking lots, for example, or buildings that may not have a ton of value. We did this with the comprehensive plan when we're looking at areas around town that were ripe for redevelopment, where the land value is worth more than the improvements that are on that property. And so this is where James, and let me catch up to myself here. This is where James provided, and this is a two-pronged map. So this isn't to scare anybody. So these are the locations where those parking lots and lower structures are located where development may occur, but it also shows that maximum height that our code will currently support. So we wouldn't expect to see this. Development doesn't happen in this manner, but it does show, what areas in town could potentially grow in height. It's also important to show here, Hillary had mentioned it in the first couple of slides, that DON, or the downtown north, which part of that does sit in the downtown core, but it does have a cap on height. The DON has a maximum of 45 foot tall, and then the DOE, which stands for downtown east, that has a cap of 35 feet for residential and 38 feet for commercial. So this is a mixed height scenario. This is more along the lines of what you would see in the same locations. It's theoretical, obviously. It's looking into the crystal ball. But you'll see where some sites will grow taller than others, and some will capitalize on on that height and trying to capture those views, and others not so much. They're looking for other, retail opportunities or office space or things like that. So this is that mixed height scenario. And then turning around and looking the other way, which is kind of a southeast look, the same model, but turned at about 120 degrees or so, looking towards Tubbs Hill. If anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me. All right, so these modeling scenarios, this is to show what that difference in height is depending on what is approved by council and what that context looks like, and the difference between a 220-foot tall structure along Front Street and versus like a 90-foot tall structure. This next picture here also shows some step backs where you at 45 feet you would step back 20 feet, and then you would step back again at 75 feet, and that creates what's called a needle. Our current code does have this employed into it, and there's a certain, they call it a floor plate size, when you get above 75 feet, where it kind of squishes that balloon so that it can rise and block less view, so it doesn't create a wall, if you will.
Go ahead, ask.
Sean?
Sure.
If I could just take you back to the mixed heights scenario, either slide. I'm trying to understand how the committee came up. The pink is what could happen, right?
Yeah, it's a potential.
Okay.
Any one of these blocks does have potential. It's tough to say which one's going to go.
So the green, the little green, no one could build on those?
No, those are existing conditions. Those are just lots and buildings that haven't grown.
Okay, it's a
pink
crystal
is-
ball is what you're trying to tell me. You haven't talked to property owners right?
Well, during our workshop, we did invite the stakeholders to the table. This is just a guess. Back when we worked on this in 2006, when Henshaw LMN Architects came to town, they took a look at some of the ownerships and made guesses. It's along that same line. Nobody knows for sure which ones, like ownerships change, the code may change. So when you look at all of those scenarios, you take a look at, okay, well, where do you think the most likelihood for that to happen is? And so we looked at parking lots, areas where development could happen much more easier than taking down an expensive structure, for example. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Let's get back here. Okay, so in modeling and showing, what the potential is with our current code and in the height that's allowed. So this is looking south down 5th Street towards Tubbs Hill in the background at a 220-foot tower along 5th Street, what that would look like. And then the next in that mixed height scenario shows what 220 looks like, and I know it's a 3D view, so you have to understand that the 220 that sits behind is further away. It's a couple blocks away. So it looks lower, it's just that 3D value, the Z value. And then this is from McEwen Park, so Front Street along here. We have Parkside and McEwen Tower. This is the new Thomas George, and then what a potential for other buildings might be that are there. And so this is the DC East Gateway. This we asked James to do based on feedback, talking to the landowner. He's been around for a long time and wants to do something with the property at some point. And he owns a fairly substantial piece of property. This is what's commonly known as the Zips property. And This scenario would require a couple of different things for this to happen. There is an alley that runs down the middle that would have to be vacated, as well as utilities that would need to be relocated that are in that alley for this to happen. But this is like a larger scenario of like a full city block, if what that looks like at 110 feet tall with the step backs. All right. So as part of this, and Hillary was talking about it, was the tower spacing. And so the group has recommended 80 feet. And so in going back, and it's always good to know the history and what happened. So in 2006, when council looked at this, and we came up with a 50-foot separation, I remember the discussion quite clearly. Is initially it was, well, what should it be? And so it started at, well, how much room should we have? How do you get a view? How close should these towers be? And the discussion at first was, well, most of the right-of-ways downtown, pretty much all of them are about 60 feet wide. So we started at 60, and then the discussion moved, well, how does that limit multiple towers that could potentially happen on the same block or same half block? And they were like, well, the width of your downtown lot on average is 50 feet wide. And so that's how we landed at 50 feet today in what we have. Through discussion and feedback that we got from the working group, as well as our stakeholder meeting, we landed more at an 80-foot tower separation. There isn't a lot size or a right-of-way width that matches that. That has just felt like that provided enough room between the towers to allow view corridors to exist. All right, and as part of this, we were also asked to take a look at a study of shadows. And before I hop into this, I just want to make everyone aware that, clouds exist. So today, you wouldn't see these types of shadows. So this doesn't happen every day. It's not meant to scare anyone. It's just to show what the potential shadows are on a bright, sunny day based on the month. So this is about mid-month July, and what the shadow looks like over a day. So you can see, because this is fairly close to the summer solstice, the sun is higher in the sky and doesn't cast quite the same amount of shadow that you would see, during other times of the year. So we'll move to October. So the sun is setting earlier, it's dropping, it's not near as high. So it does tend to cast a farther shadow over the day. If anybody wants to see it again, just let me know. And then December. So December, we're pretty close to that winter solstice. The sun is very low. It hardly gets over Tubbs Hill as it passes through the sky, at least from my desk. So this is what that looks like. And it gets dark quite early, so it stops at 4 p.m. All right, so that wraps it up for the modeling, and hopefully everybody has a good idea of what that looks like and what the potentials are. I'm going to turn it back over to Hillary to talk about recommendations.
Sean? All right, so based on all that modeling you saw and the input from the stakeholders, we have updated our recommendations. And so this slide here shows those recommendations, and then the next slide is a model showing what it looks like, which is a little easier to visualize. So Front Avenue, we have increased from 45 feet to a recommendation of 75 feet with bonuses. We still feel that within the historic core, 45 feet on Sherman Avenue is appropriate, but we thought it would be okay to have something on the East Gateway, so allowing up to 110 feet between 7th and 8th Streets, as Sean had indicated, and that aligns with what we're recommending on Lakeside Avenue, so that would also be 110 feet tall. Coeur d'Alene Avenue between 75 feet and 110 feet, so the thought with this new recommendation is kind of, we already have some towers on front, and then you want to go down to the historic core, but then maybe allowing a little bit extra height, but then coming back down as you go toward the residential areas to the north. So on Coeur d'Alene Avenue, whereas our original recommendation was that's where the tower should be, now we're like, well, you could do towers there, but we might have some bonuses that you have to, like some higher intensity bonuses to be able to achieve that height. And then dropping back down onto Indiana Avenue at 45 feet, which matches the height limit to the north and the downtown overlay north. Again, no additional towers of 220 feet within the downtown core is a recommendation. All those heights would be the max with the bonuses for floor area ratio, increasing that tower spacing from 50 to 80 feet, and to have the upper step back, which you saw in some of those, but it may not have been super clear. Right now, it's only 10 feet, which is really negligible. So increasing that to 20 feet so that the buildings, when they get up to that 45 feet, they come in 20 feet. And that's consistent with what has been built for the tower so far on Front Avenue. So that's where we came up with that 20. So here's the slide that shows that visually. So again, Front Avenue 75 feet, Sherman Avenue other than the East Gateway 110, but the rest of Sherman would be 45, allowing up to 110, and then going down to 45. Here that is just from kind of a different view from Northwest Boulevard, looking kind of across downtown. So this recommendation really kind of aligns more with that mixed height scenario that you saw that showed what it could look like. Here this is looking west on Sherman Avenue with this recommendation, with this 110 foot at the East Gateway, and then 45 feet on the historic core. And then we also have made recommendations, and you saw these at the last check-in, and we presented this at the stakeholder meeting to change some of those bonuses. So currently you could do a private health club in your building and you could get a bonus to go taller. And so there's a few things like that that I think the public and the working group thought, let's not do that. Maybe we should get rid of some of those. No one's ever taken care of the daycare or taken advantage of the daycare bonus. While we all know that's a need, haven't done that. Street level retail, we feel like that should just be a requirement, not a bonus. So the column on the left is what we recommend removing, and then adding a few on the right to allow for historic preservation to be a bonus, and public parking to integrate that within a project. Interior public space could be kind of a cool indoor kind of courtyard space that would be year-round, and then green building expanding on what's in the code now to allow green roofs and more, innovative green building construction
And what
types.
exactly does that mean, other than I'm assuming it's not the green color, but
No, so like you could have a green roof or a green wall, like green and growing. You could do that kind of thing. You could do a LEED
okay.
certification.
Oh, so, okay,
And some of these still need to be vetted further. That's one of our next steps.
okay.
So next steps now. So this is kind of getting to we want your guidance. So we're at the point where we feel like we needed to come check in with you before we start doing any more work on this and see if we're going in the right direction. So we have a couple paths forward. We have kind of a faster track, because this has been going on for a while, and I'm sure you're wondering why it's, we're 2 years in and we don't have anything in code form for you to review. So we would like to update our city commissions that we have representation on the working group. We could either do that just via sending them a link to this meeting tonight and kind of offer some responses at any of their upcoming meetings and share your feedback with them, or we could actually do presentations, which would delay it a little bit if we have to wait for the next available commission meetings. The next step that really needs to happen too is evaluating those floor area ratios, not only the bonuses, but just how does this whole thing work? We do the modeling, but we haven't tested the base plus the bonus, and what does that look like when you look at these different heights? And that it's going to be different for each street if we have different heights. So we need to test that and refine the bonus recommendations. And then, again, kind of quicker path forward and slightly slower path forward would be to do joint workshops prior to any public hearings and before the code really gets developed. We could meet with the 3 commissions, so the Planning and Zoning Commission, Design Review Commission, Historic Preservation all together and do that, or we could just get the code going and go straight to the public hearings. And that would be because this recommendation for the next steps now we're not changing the design guidelines, we're not changing some of the things that affect the Design Review Commission's role or Historic Preservation Commission. It's really just, let's tackle this height, which has been the biggest issue, and kind of the tower spacing. So that's the first option. And then the next steps later we do still need to look at the parking. We need to figure out, are these the right parking ratios for development in the downtown? Evaluate the fee in lieu of, leased parking, how that works. Should we change any of that and get the parking data from Diamond Parking? And evaluate the boundaries. Should we change any of that? Make it easier to have the downtown north have its own kind of standalone zoning and not have that, the complication of the overlay. And then evaluate any other changes that need to happen to the zoning regulations and amend the design guidelines. So those, if you look at it all, we can keep going and we can do all of this together, but it's a heavy load. So council recommended last time, let's take it in smaller bite-sized pieces. So that is our recommendation now, is to do it in bite-sized pieces. So that's really what we're here to ask you tonight is, are you ready for us to move forward and just look at these items and focus on the draft code amendment modifying height, floor area ratio, tower spacing, and upper step back? With that, we would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Hillary and Kevin and Sean. Are there any questions from council on this presentation?
There's lots of people.
Lots. Christie, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Hillary, we agree with the appreciation for the work of the committee. It has been a long process, but these are very impactful decisions. So you asked for feedback, so I'm just going to give it.
Please.
I would much prefer workshops, small topics as we go, so that we can make sure that when we make these decisions, that we've taken in the impact to everyone. So I think that, number one, I'm not interested in going straight to public hearings. This is too impactful. And I guess I'd like to see, Mr. Meyer spoke tonight, I'd love to see some feedback from some of the property owners, if that could be solicited from them. And then at FAR bonuses, I was at a meeting this morning with the Downtown Business Association, and really, right now, their biggest pressing concern for their businesses in the downtown area is no public restroom. So I thought maybe that could be considered with your committee, that a FAR bonus for public restroom.
That one is in there. So that was
You
on
have
that
public
green list.
You have interior public space.
Oh, I'm sorry. We had it on there, and we actually discussed that maybe that wasn't viable because at the stakeholder workshop, we asked that question, and nobody that does construction or designed towers in downtown wanted to do one.
I know.
Okay, so you would like us to consider adding that back in?
I asked
Okay.
businesses a couple of years ago, would you consider public restrooms? And nobody wants to do it, but it's a dire need.
Okay.
So I had discussed with Bill Greenwood about the Rotary Park, and that there could be a potential to partner with the Downtown Association to put in some restrooms, inside restrooms, in that park.
Yeah, I don't know that Rotary's interested, but I'm glad
Well,
you're inquiring.
we are thinking about that, so the city is thinking about it, but it also was something we discussed as part of a FAR. Any other questions for, yes, Kenny?
I agree with Councilmember Wood for sure that little is better than big right now, and that I absolutely would like to know if there's workshops that are going to be planned so they can digest all this information and come back with their thoughts as well. I think that's a great idea. Second is, you talked about giving DRC a little more teeth.
Yes.
And we saw a priority with the Historical Commission and keeping downtown charming, if you will. What does that even look like? How much teeth do they have right now?
There's not a lot in terms of the design per se. So they can look at certain things. So we have the required design guidelines, and then the building designer will come and the proponent will show kind of how they've met that. They can't say, oh, you didn't use, the materials that match the rest of downtown currently, and they can't say that you can't have your driveway access here. So there's certain things that we've allowed through the design departure process, and that's one of the other recommendations we have, is to change the vehicular orientation as well and make all the streets pedestrian oriented and try and get access off the alley. But I think they felt restricted in terms of like looking at vehicular access and things like that in the past. So, and I think a lot of the outcry was when the Marriott building, and they wanted it to look more historic and use brick like the other buildings, and we don't have that as a requirement in the code.
And will we look at maybe making this a requirement through this process?
That would be in the design guidelines stage. So, yeah, if we wanted to go at least make this move a little faster, we would do the design guidelines secondarily and focus on the building height first.
Okay.
But yes, we certainly, if that's what council would like to see, have more teeth and have more of that component, the historic component that can be added.
Great job, thank you.
Kiki.
Hillary, can you clear up this one piece on the 110-foot tower at the east entrance, Coeur d'Alene Avenue?
Yes.
And how that came about. I'm trying to visualize that Coeur d'Alene Avenue, it would have a tower on the south side of the block, and then an alley with an R1 single-story height limit on the other side of the block. Is that how that came together?
Let's see here, so the Coeur d'Alene Avenue one would actually be, there would be Indiana Avenue to the north of that would be 45 feet. So it would taper back down, but that was kind of why we thought, well, maybe it should be really 75 feet with some bonuses, and then you'd have to have even more bonuses to get to the 110 feet tall on the Coeur d'Alene Avenue. And we would make sure that that was only to Fifth, so that it doesn't have the conflict with the Garden District.
Okay, and so I'm looking at the one, so it's 45 step back up to Indiana, but only over to, is that like 4th Street in Indiana? And then 5th and 6th, that isn't part of it? Is that outside the boundary, I guess is where I'm going?
It kind of, yeah, it jogs. Let me see if maybe Sean's slide, that heat map slide might show the boundaries a little bit more. See, it does, everything kind of jogs because you have more of the residential area.
And so where you're talking about the 110-foot tower is in that
It'd
orange?
have to be within, yeah, so.
In that area?
Mhm.
And so we do have just a lot of the Garden District residential. I guess I'm wondering about that, feeling
Right.
like we've got these historic homes, and then right across the alley is a 110-foot tower. So
maybe do a little more on that.
yeah.
Okay.
And I feel like that were those stakeholders in the Garden District invited to?
We
saw that?
had some representation from the surrounding neighborhood, so yes, we did.
Okay. Thank you.
Amy, please.
I just more want to say, excuse me, thank you. I was part of, I cannot believe this, it was 2006. That was probably one of my first projects with the city when Mark Henshaw came and worked with Sean on that. And I have such vivid memories of those conversations as well and learned so much. So 20 years ago, that's insane. So thank you to the group because I understand how much work went into this. And I do support moving forward with workshops in the future.
In English, please.
Just that I think that the bathrooms, I mean, is a big deal. And also it's tough to expect them to give up the private space. And we do have, the old Woolworth Spa, which is the park. And, along one side of it to do, real bathrooms as something, I mean, if I had to take a vote tonight, I'd support it in a heartbeat, so there are going to be some trade-offs, and, that is important for people, and it doesn't matter, I mean, you could be a tourist coming through, you could be, one of us down there, and, when you gotta go, or especially the grandkid or something, so that's important.
Yes, it is. Any other questions for Hillary? So the group would like some guidance from council. This is not an action item, this is for information, but I want to make sure that they know what the next steps would be from the council. That's why they came here. The question asked on one of the slides, is council ready to move forward on deliberation and discussion on height, downtown core boundaries, tower spacing, and upper step backs? I always want to say setbacks, but it's step backs. And there's other issues too. So you mentioned parking, and there's also historical elements and other things, but you want to kind of focus on this, get some feedback on this, and see where we're going to move.
That was our recommendation, just so that we can, I guess, help you and help the community feel like we're being responsive, because this is a long effort, and we have a lot more to do if we tackle it all at the same time versus trying to focus on the bigger items first.
So we're not deliberating or making a motion, but is the mood of council to move forward with a workshop then? Is that kind of where we're headed?
Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
I would say not just one workshop. I think this is so impactful that we have to really understand from every perspective. And so if you would break it up into small topics. Just me, I don't know how the rest of council feels. But it's going to impact Coeur d'Alene for decades. So I want to make sure we take the appropriate time.
And may I ask, with the workshops, would you like to include the 3 commissions with that as well? Would that be helpful? Okay.
I think I'm hearing that as well.
And I don't know if it's appropriate, but we don't normally take public comment at workshops, but how else are we going to get the feedback from property owners, stakeholders? I mean, you've gotten some for us. I really appreciate the work of the committee, but to make well-informed decisions, how would we get that feedback if we didn't have public comment?
We could do it at the workshop. That's, like you said, that's not typical. We could also meet with them in advance of the workshops and kind of get their input to share with you. That might help the flow of the workshop. So lean on you to kind of help determine the best path forward. Or
We could do that. We could
Ron or
take
Randy.
questions from the audience, have them write down thoughts and share them so that it doesn't become a free-for-all. I mean, there's a lot of options. Okay, anyone else have any feedback for Hillary on this? Hillary, do you have enough information to proceed?
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
lot
Thank
of
you
work.
all.
Good, thank you.
We appreciate the work you do on this. And if you want to stay right there,
I'm going to go grab my staff report for this other one,
Move
and I
on
will
to
come right
item
back
H.
while you, yes.
H2, which is the Historical Preservation Mitigation Bank Grant Request for $50,000 and Idaho Heritage Trust Grant Request for $15,000.
Great, perfect, thank you. Yes, so I am here before you seeking authority to not only apply for, but to have the ability to spend the funds, assuming we receive the grant funds. I know before when I've come to you and you say, why are you coming before us? This is such a small amount, but it's because I don't have it in my budget. So we're hopeful that you are supportive of us applying for these 2 grants and that then we can roll it into the budget and have spending authority. But I am here before you requesting authorization to apply for 2 grant funds. They can work in conjunction with one another, which is fantastic. There's a brand new Historic Preservation Mitigation Bank that is offering up to $50,000 for municipalities to apply for grant funds, and it can be brick and mortar types of projects. There's no cash match or any kind of match on that one. And then in conjunction with that, we have an opportunity to apply for technical assistance and $15,000 from Idaho Heritage Trust. To apply those 2 together, we'd have up to $65,000, and our request is to apply for the funds, receive the funds, and then do some work on the Inland Empire Electric Substation, which is leased by HREI. That is a historic building. It's listed in the National Register of Historic Places. It was built in 1904 to house electric batteries that provided backup power for electric trains that traveled between Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, notably for the steamboat rides on the lake. And it's the last remaining building of Spokane and Inland Empire Railway. So it's a pretty cool building. We'd like to save it. We believe this is a phased project, and it sounds like the Historic Preservation Mitigation Bank will be ongoing, so we would be able to apply multiple years in a row. There is a requirement to have a 5-year facade easement if you do work, but that seems pretty reasonable. And if we have to do work on the building, we can work with the State Historic Preservation Office on any changes or anything to repair the building walls. So that is what we are requesting this evening. I'll show you some photos. So this is the wall we're talking about, the north wall. So it's the one that kind of faces northeast. Here's the north elevation. So the bricks on this, we'd like to do the tuck point or repointing of the brick. So some of the mortar and is missing, and we want to preserve the building wall, and so we need to do some work. We have multiple bids, and so we feel like we can do this, as I mentioned, in a phased approach. And here's an example of, just since 1904, if we haven't been replacing that over time, then there's going to be some challenges with the building. So that is what we're seeking this evening. So I would stand for any questions.
Any questions for Hillary? Okay, you're looking for council action then.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve resolution number 26025, authorizing staff and the city's Historic Preservation Commission to apply for and, if awarded, accept and Historic Preservation Mitigation Bank grant in the amount of up to $50,000, and an Idaho Heritage Trust Fund grant of up to $15,000 for brick and mortar rehabilitation of the city-owned building listed in the National Register as the Inland Empire Electric Substation.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Very well, we'll take a roll call, please.
Scheckler,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion has carried. Thank you so much, Hillary. Look forward to that. Item J is a public hearing, and this is a quasi-judicial hearing. It's ZC 126, a request by Michael and Norma Reeser for zone change from MH8, which is mobile home 8 units per acre, to R17, 17 dwelling units per acre on a parcel measuring .522 acres located at 3620 North Fruitland Lane. We have a staff report by Sean Holm, Senior Planner. Take it away, Sean.
Thank you, Mayor. So rather than state what you just said so eloquently again, and it's right here on the slide, we'll move on. The request is for MH8 to R17 along Fruitland Lane, the 3,000
Hang on
block.
just a second, Sean. I forgot to read the warning. So I have to read a warning to my fellow elected officials.
Okay.
So I will be reading that and interrupting you. So please note that the term deliberation in Idaho open meeting law includes the receipt of or exchange of any information in any form, including emails, telephone calls, and in-person conversations. In addition, when counsel sits in a quasi-judicial capacity, its decision can only be based on information presented at the hearing. Therefore, I ask if any council member has received or exchanged information related to the annexation request that is not included. Is this an annexation? Zone change. So we'll say zone change request that is not included in the council packet. Please disclose that information now so that the applicant and the public will have full knowledge of the information you possess. Okay. All right, please proceed, Sean. Thank you, and I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Okay, so this is the city in its entirety. The green is city limits. The subject property is located near Highway 95, north of I-90. So this is zooming in a bit more, so you can see Bocinco Avenue to the north, Fruitland Lane where the request is, US 95 to the east. This is about a little hair over half an acre, and that is the location, 3620 North Fruitland Lane. And zooming in, this is a little tighter site context, so you can see what is around the subject property as well as across the street. So going on to some background information. So Planning Commission, they heard this request on February 10th. They did ask some questions, some good questions, great questions. And they did unanimously vote 5-0 with a recommendation to City Council to pass the zone change. Okay, so as part of this, we try and pull up, what has been done in the past over the years. This is going back to 1985. As you can see, the area is in transition. The green denotes approvals. So all of these around the area have been approved over time. There was one that expired. It did come back in 2004, was approved again, and it was changed. Okay, so with a zone change, there are 4 findings that must be met. City Council needs to base these findings on statements of fact. Those can be found in your staff report on pages 4 and 5. You can base that upon the staff report, the applicant presentation, public testimony, and all other evidence received at the hearing tonight. Okay, so finding B1 is that this proposal is or is not in conformance with the comprehensive plan. So this is a citywide context for a future land use map. The property is right here located in the compact neighborhood district. And this is what the compact neighborhood district is. And rather than read what is on the slide to you, I'll describe what place types are for the audience and people who are at home. So place types represent the form of future development as envisioned by the residents of Coeur d'Alene. These place types provide the policy level guidance that will inform city development ordinances. Each place type corresponds to multiple zoning districts that will provide a high level of detail and regulatory guidance on items such as height, lot size, setback, adjacencies, and allowed uses. So you can see that in the compact neighborhood, that compatible zoning districts, which are a range from R12, which is residential at 12 units per gross acres, what that stands for, R17, MH8, which is a mobile home district at 8 units per gross acre, neighborhood commercial, and community commercial. And this is zoomed in so you can understand the context of the area, the greater neighborhood area, and urban neighborhood, planned unit development, civic uses are somewhat nearby, as well as similar to this compact neighborhood, makes up a decent portion of this, and mixed use low and retail center and corridor are all in this area. So it's definitely a mixed area. So the transportation portion of the comprehensive plan here are 3 different pieces. We have the multi-use paths as well as bicycle lanes shown here. This is an older part of town. It does have some improvements and some anticipated improvements, which are the dashed lines. But you can see as moving over into the paths and sidewalks, there's not a lot around there. There is some, but it's not like our downtown or some new development where they're required by code. And then last but not least is CityLink, and so there is 3 different routes here. This is Route C, and it sits towards the center of Route C as it moves north-south through town. So policy framework. So this is where the rubber hits the road in the plan. This is where our attorneys like to focus on for the comp plan. So the policy framework under community and identity, we've curated these as staff, and the full list is provided for you. There is 6 different policy framework guidelines. The first one is community and identity. So goal CI1 is Coeur d'Alene citizens are well-informed, responsive, and involved in community discussions. I always like to thank the audience members that have showed up for this evening's hearing. In addition, there is goal CI3 that Coeur d'Alene will strive to be livable for median and below income levels, including young families, working class, low income, and fixed income households. Under growth and development, the city's goal number 1 is to develop a mix of land uses throughout the city that balance housing and employment while preserving the qualities that make Coeur d'Alene a great place to live. And goal 2 is to ensure appropriate high-quality infrastructure to accommodate community needs and future growth. Last but not least, health and safety, which is goal number 3 in the HS area of the plan, is to continue to provide exceptional police, fire, and emergency services. So finding B2, this is the second of the 4th, is that public facilities and utilities are or are not available and adequate for the proposed use. So this is when our city departments and city department heads weigh in on what is available as far as utilities and what requirements are. This is usually where you see conditions that are laid out. Suffice it to say that staff did reach out, they replied, and that streets, water, stormwater, sewer, and fire are all available to the site and can be served. Craig Etherton from Fire wanted to note here that for buildings that have a 45-foot height that are only set back 10 foot to another structure, they have an increased risk of exposure from one building to the next. So physical characteristics. That the site is generally flat with residential uses adjacent. There's no topographical or other constraints that would make the subject property unsuitable for the request. Currently, there's no sidewalk or street swale that exists on the east side of Fruitland Lane, and the background information of the staff report does have some additional information here. And this is under finding B3, that the physical characteristics of the site do or do not make it suitable for the request at this time. So picture's worth 1,000 words. Here is the site from across the street. This is looking east from Clady Lane, which is a private road right here. Fruitland Lane, north-south here, and then the subject property along this fence, back to this darker brown pole building, and then along this fence up to the right-of-way at Fruitland Lane. So there is this little camper out there. From what I could tell when I went out and took these pictures, it's unoccupied. It is just being stored there.
Sean, is that even an acre?
It's half an acre. It's
Okay.
0.522.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is from the subject property and looking southwest to the opposite corner of the property that I just described, Fruitland Lane over here on the left-hand side. And then from the back of the property, looking towards Clady Lane, which was the first picture, what it looks like. And then along the rear of the fence, where I pointed out that the brown pole building is to the rear. Last but not least is finding number 4 is that the proposal would or would not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood with regard to traffic, neighborhood and character and or existing land uses. This is where we did get some questions specifically about traffic. So Chris Bosley, our city engineer, weighed in here and said that if this was built according to the highest and best use, which would be 9 units at R17, which is what that would support, that 59 trips per day would occur. I want to make this distinction because I think it gets lost quite often, is that's not 59 trips from the subject property. That's 59 trips total that are generated. So what that means is anybody that's living there, if they go to work and drive their car, that's 1 trip. They go to lunch and go somewhere off-site, that's trip 2. So it's not necessarily associated with the site. That's just total trips generated from the people that live there. Okay. So next is neighborhood character. So the area along North Fruitland Lane displays a transitioning suburban residential character common to the vicinity positioned west of US 95. This portion of Fruitland Lane is a transition zone between more compact urban amenities featured with a variety of mix of housing types that reflect incremental development over many decades. So zoning, generalized land use and zoning. So on the left-hand side, this is the land use. So you can see this subject property right here is highlighted in black. That is the color of vacant. It is currently vacant. There's a number of different types of uses across the street. They look similar, but they are a little different. And so we have some duplexes. We have some single-family attached, as well as mobile home parks. That seems to surround a good portion of the site. Civic with religious assembly, have commercial uses as well mixed in there with, what do you have here? Car wash, oil change, and mini storage, as well as to the north, we have Fred Meyer and Toyota. Okay, so the zoning map, largely this area around here is zoned MH8. Across the street was 2 of those zone changes that have happened over the years from R12 and R17. And then the red is C17, which is our commercial zoning district. The subject property is zoned mobile home 8. One of the questions that came up was during Planning Commission, and I was asked to add this slide to add a wider context to the site, is at some point in the future, it's not funded right now, but we're hearing a lot of talk about the US 95 and I-90 interchange that may be coming, and the question was, well, will people use this as a bypass? Is traffic going to increase? I did talk to Chris Bosley, city engineer. This is fairly far north of where we would see that happen, and he said anybody who was trying to use this as a shortcut to go north once they hit Bosenko are going to be sad, because Bosenko forces you to take a right. So you'll end up going south anyway, so it won't be a shortcut to go north. All right. So, moving on to what the districts mean. So MH8 is intended as a moderate density district. It allows mobile homes, so those generally do not have any sort of foundation, aren't permanently tied to the site, aren't considered real property. MH8 allows these types of uses as a principal use for the site. R17 is a medium high density district that allows 17 units per gross acre. If you build single family or duplex, you're supposed to look at R8 and R12 for guidance, and then as well as what those uses are that are allowed principal on the site. So this is again where theoretical maximums kick in here. I'd like to thank John Ingalls. He suggested that staff provide these types of analysis, which I'm happy to do. Takes a minute to talk about though. So MH8 has two ways to realize density. Subdivision, and then by getting a mobile home park by special use permit, which also requires a special use, requires a public hearing to go to Planning Commission. So subdivision is very similar to most of our districts in town. You need 5,500 square feet and 50 foot of frontage. Based on this particular lot, it would have a maximum of 2 lots that would be allowed, even though it's a fairly large lot, because there's only 130 foot of frontage. So you could split it in half and have two lots there. Or by special use permit, as mentioned earlier, you could potentially get that special use permit, have 3,150 square foot lots or areas to lease. That yields about 11 units per acre, so this would have a total maximum of 7 mobile home sites if that was approved, with a maximum height of 19 feet. So if this is approved, in the maximum density at R17, which is 3 units attached or more, requires 2,500 square foot per unit. That yields 17 units per gross acre, or a maximum of 9 units in this case. The maximum height would increase from 19 feet for a mobile home, or 32 if it's stick-built, as described up here, to a maximum of 45 foot in height. The setbacks also do change, providing 10 foot on the sides instead of 5 and 10. Right, so that about wraps it up for us. There was no conditions that were proposed for the requested zone change, and City Council will need to consider this request, make findings to approve or deny the requested R17 zoning. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions for Sean? Yeah, Kenny.
Sean, for half an acre, half R17 just seems like a lot. I know it'll be shrunk in half, and I see we've moved from the MH8 to R17 in the past. Is that correct?
Across the street they did, yes.
Was that a half acre or a full acre across the street? Do you recall?
Boy, I want to say it was close to an acre,
Okay.
3/4 of an acre. It's long, it stretches from Fruitland all the way to Howard.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Any other questions for Sean? Yes, Dan Scheckler.
When I think of a zone, I think of an area beyond one parcel. It looks like there's a lot of mobile homes that are just surrounding this lot, and then there'll be potentially a 45-foot tall apartment complex in this one lot. Is there a danger to just pursuing a zone change on kind of a spot basis rather than looking at the entire surrounding neighborhood about whether or not it's appropriate for all of those MH8s to be R17? And what would be the benefit of just going with one parcel?
Right, so I think you're asking 2 questions, if I understand it. One, spot zoning, and if that's okay or not. That did come up at the last hearing. Randy answered that one, said that there was a Supreme Court ruling that if it's in the comprehensive plan and recognizes that that is a potential, that is not considered spot zoning. However, the second question I think I got from that, correct me if I'm wrong, is the context of the area where you have lower homes and then the potential for something that is taller. And there is that possibility. The setbacks are a little bit different as stated. So if you look at my pointer right here, you know, there's access that comes off of here, so that is a rear yard for MH8, which should be 15 feet with some accessory uses that are located there. And then if approved, the change to the zone would require 10-foot side yards. So it'd be about 25 feet between the back of a mobile home and where the side of a potential 45-foot tall building would be. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for Sean? Okay, thank you, Sean.
All right.
We'll open the public hearing. Is the applicant or someone representing the applicant present tonight? Oh, please, would you like to speak? Right, that's. Why don't you come up and we'll find out. Randy, is there something? Okay, and this is a quasi-judicial hearing, so you need to state your name for the record and be sworn in by the clerk.
Michael Reeser.
Okay.
Sir, please raise your right hand and respond by saying, I affirm. Do you solemnly swear and or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please proceed, Mr. Reeser.
We'd just like to rezone this possibly for affordable housing, something along those lines. That's all I'm asking for.
Very good. Is there any questions for Mr. Reeser? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have one person signed up, and I apologize because I can't really make out your last name, but Shelley is the first name. Shelley, would you like to come up? And Shelley Porsche. And Shelley Porsche will be sworn in by our clerk.
Please raise your right hand and respond by saying, I affirm. Do you solemnly swear and or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And Shelley is opposed, and you have your time. Thank you.
I've lived in the neighborhood down Loft Lane in one of the trailers and lived there for 19 years. And they've built all those new places across Fruitland. And people park on the road. That picture he showed conveniently showed nobody parked across from across from the place. It is a very much used road as a pass through, as Howard is also. And the place he was talking about that was zoned for 17, it's the whole from Fruitland to Howard. And it's huge. It's not the half an acre that you got that had one house on it. And I live there, have to go. They took out our light on Bosanko at 95, so now you have to go down Fruitland to get to Neater to get on 95, to go either way. Or you have to go down to Howard from Bosanko to Kathleen to go up to 95. So that's already a pain. But the new thing they're trying to do, they will use that as a pass-through because they're using it already. And it's a 25-mile-an-hour road. And people go 40 at least. It's a speedway. It's a neighborhood. Right across from the subject property is the bus stop also. If they're going to put 9 apartments in a half an acre, where are they going to park? That's the biggest thing. Because there should be no parking on that side of the road, the east side. They park all down the west side. And you have to stop and let people through. And it's a real pain. I was hoping to see a plan of what they're going to build. How are they going to build 9 apartments in that place and have parking for 18 cars? And I know the workforce affordable housing, I'm using quotes for a reason. I know that's the big thing and it's Kiki's thing. But are they going to be low income? What's affordable? And how are you going to smash 9 families, let's call it? Because don't know if it's 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. How many people are going to be able to live in each 9 apartments? It's going to be, I can't say what I want to say. You understand what I'm saying? As a person who lives there, I know y'all don't live there. I know Mr. Reeser doesn't live there, who wants to build there. You're talking to a person that's their business to make this and change the zoning, but nobody's in there living. Nobody asked me, how's it gonna affect it, you know? Nobody has questioned anything, and that sign for the public hearing only went up like 2 weeks ago. And I know they approved it, planning and zoning, on the 10th of February. What took so long? People don't usually stop to go read those signs either. I did. Because I live there and I'm concerned what's happening in the neighborhood. And if I had more time, I could have circulated and talked to all the people around and asked them to come to this public hearing. But it seems to me, because the planning and zoning's already approved it, they don't live there either. That y'all are gonna approve it. You know, I could see maybe 4 apartments. Where are they gonna park? That's the biggest thing. You can't park. And if they do this, then they're gonna have the cops there ticketing people who park on the road. I say that the cops should be on that road all the time because they can make so much money on tickets. Anyway, I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Shelley. Any questions for Ms. Porsche? Thank you. Okay, anyone else would like to testify who's here? Okay, Mr. Reeser, you're allowed to come up and do a rebuttal if you'd like to. He does not want to. Very good. I will close the public hearing, and if there's any other questions for Sean.
I'd like to clear a couple things up.
And Kiki would like to clear a few things up.
Sean, I just want to be clear on what we're doing here is that this is just a zone change to the land. We can't, as a council, dictate what's built there except for in the fashion of these are the building types that are allowed to be put on the R17 zoning, correct?
Well, a development agreement is something that can be placed on a property. Generally, we don't see those for something that's smaller in scope. And just so everyone's aware that the 9 units, that's a theoretical maximum. So they still need to meet setbacks. They have to provide the parking that's based on number of bedrooms. They have a height limit as well they have to meet. If they can't meet that, then it is what it is. If there's 5 units, 6, 7, that's really comes down to design.
Right, and that was part of what I was going to ask is I'd like to see development agreements discussed on every zone change and every annexation because I think there's a way that can be used as a tool to help us get some attainable housing. And so that's just for the record, I'd like to see it on all of them. But I just want to be clear that the neighbors and that we can't dictate and say we want this to be 4 condominiums and we want them to be for sale, not rent. That's not something that a council can do with this zone change unless it's in the context of a development agreement. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Did you want to propose a development agreement?
As I said, wanted a development agreement in everything, but I want to make sure that we aren't holding up unnecessarily and that we have the ability to put that in the record that that's what I would like us to be doing.
Hang on a second. So Randy, how would that work? If something comes to us and it's a zone change like this tonight, and council would want a development agreement, I mean, what would the process be?
Municipal Code 1750.020 provides that as a condition of approval for a zone change, you can require a development agreement. So it would be an approval with a condition that a development agreement acceptable to council would be entered into with the party.
So Kiki could make that motion when we make the motion for the findings? Or someone else, anyone up here could do it?
Yes, it would be with the first motion that's on the long agenda.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think that where I'm going with this is that a development agreement is a negotiated instrument with the landowner and the city. So what's in there isn't something that council would want to sit down and say, hey, I want this, and Dan wants this, and Amy wants that. It's something that has to, all of the departments have to agree that whatever in that development agreement works for the city and works for the landowner. So at this point, it's one of them that I would like to see that occur if staff thinks there's a potential to work with this landowner to get something in writing before we approve it. If you think that, and the 9 units was one of my other questions, is that's just doing the math. It isn't saying that 9 units would fit there. And it isn't saying that it would be profitable or beneficial to put 9 units there. But we can't dictate, show us what your plans are before we approve zoning. It's just for the land use types. And I just want to be sure that that's clear out there. Also go back to development agreement in a second. This follows the comp plan, so it was appropriate, and planning and zoning commissioners found that. But I think partially to Commissioner Scheckler's question, the council can't take all the land around this and say, well, since we're changing this from MH8 to R17 right now, let's just go ahead and change all the zoning around it to R17. It comes forward as a request from the landowner for a zone change request. Is that correct?
That is correct. I mean, it is correct, but also council can request a zone change for property. It's most of the time it's very unpopular, and elections go the wrong way afterwards. So just be aware that the opportunity is there, but it very rarely gets used.
I just wanted to clear that up because I kind of heard something different. I really wasn't sure where you were going with that, and I just wanted to make sure that we discussed that and we're being accurate about that. So back to the development agreement question. Does staff and the property owner think that that's something that's worthwhile tabling this for maybe another council meeting to have a few weeks to talk about something that might be good for the city in there?
Well, Kiki, you know, the council has a lot of authority up here. If you want to direct staff to enter into a development agreement, they can do that. Like Randy said, it would be part of the motion. We could accept the zone change, and then we can direct staff to go ahead and proceed with a development agreement based on whatever criteria you want to provide. So you have that authority right now.
I get that. I'm trying to determine whether they've had that discussion at all. Mr. Reeser said he wanted to put affordable housing in there. I don't know if staff's had a discussion with them about doing that and what that means. Is it Section 8 rental affordable housing? What is it? And is there something that can, I don't know what the conversation has been to this point.
We haven't had the conversation with the applicant. The applicant had a representative at Planning Commission. It did come up at Planning Commission. Planning Commission ultimately decided that due to the context of the site and the uses around there, that they didn't expect that high rents would fly in this location, to be honest, and that they forewent having to do that. They felt that the rents would match the location, so they didn't suggest to do that. But ultimately, it's council's call.
Well, I would, and as I said, I'm fresh out of an economic development and housing summit where I am seeing that every piece of land that is available to do anything to help with our housing crisis goes away. Rentals are great, but rentals at fair market value in this town, the likelihood of that area, which is up and coming to be redeveloped, doesn't give us anything that is making headway in assuring there's attainable housing. So I would like to see if we can table this for 2 weeks to have an opportunity to talk to the landowner about any possibility of attainable housing inside of a development agreement.
He's here now. We can open the hearing again, and you can hear from him. Yeah, I know.
Is there, if that's a motion, if she wants to make a motion to table, I'll second for discussion.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to table the discussion. Any discussion on this motion?
I don't think bringing the landowner and the staff into this discussion right now. I think they need to sit down and talk about what the possibilities are to put something together and then come back to us with the final.
Okay, so there's a motion which is to table the hearing for 2 weeks, I guess. Is there any
Is that
discussion?
enough? Sorry, excuse me.
Please go ahead.
Is that enough time?
I mean, we can certainly have a conversation as long as the applicant's available. I know he was away for the prior hearing, that's why he had representation, so he was out of the country. If he's here, staff's open.
Okay, so this is on the motion to postpone this, table this for a week. Dan? English?
Yeah, just that I appreciate that we've got the ability for development agreements. It's a tool, but I also think we have to be mindful of scale and effort and time use. And I certainly, I mean, I would not support a development agreement on every zone change because, again, economies of scale and use of staff and all of that. And this is a pretty straightforward. So I don't really support a development agreement on this. The other thing is that I trust that, again, it'll be a matter of math and, in order for it to really go to where they're going to actually build something, they're going to have demonstrated that they're meeting the parking requirements and those kind of things and the curbs or whatever, because I drive that way all the time and I know the parking, I mean, that's a very real concern. So, yeah, we got to take care of that. But again, I wouldn't really be supportive of tabling, but anyway, that's.
Okay, so the motion is to table this hearing. So we haven't, it's not talking about a development agreement yet, just to table the hearing for 2 weeks, which is the motion that we're discussing.
Mr. Mayor, actually, the next council meeting would be 3 weeks from today.
The next council meeting, I will say for clarification purposes, which we got a bonus Tuesday this month. Yes, Amy, please.
Question, I know you guys said this and I lost track. Did you say that we could move forward with the zone change and then come back with a development agreement?
You would have to make as a condition for the zone change that a development agreement be brought forth.
Or discussed?
If we just change the zone without that, then the development agreement would be off the table at that point.
And I think, Mr. Mayor, if I can,
Please.
I think that because in here there was the planning and zoning put no conditions on the zone change. So I think that if the conditions put on the zone change that a development agreement discussion occurs with the landowner for potential attainable housing and that comes back, then it can be approved that way. Is that right?
Well, there's always there's always the possibility that the parties would not be able to reach an agreement on a development agreement.
That's true.
So if it is a condition to the zone change and that condition is not met, then the zone change does not go forward.
And a point of clarity for staff, if I can. So you had mentioned attainable, and so generally that's along the lines of ownership versus renting. The city's never forced anyone to condo a building before. It was always up to the owner whether they wanted to do that and offer it to the market or keep it in a portfolio or whatever they have, and rent out those units. So I just want to be clear before we go and negotiate what council really wants, what this motion really means.
What I'm getting towards here, Sean, is that I want to have the discussion occur. We've had developers come to the podium again and again and say, we're going to do affordable housing. What we're trying to do is lower cost rentals. And we're trying to do this. And what ends up happening time and time again, I drive by these properties a year later and they go, yeah, that didn't pencil. So what I'm trying to do is say, I want to have the opportunity to say, it doesn't need to be ownership. There's ways to say this is attainable rental for this percentage of these units, and that's what I agree to do. I think Hillary and you have been through many of these discussions, and through many, many workshops and seminars on how you can get something that's available for local workers. And that's what I'm asking for, that discussion occur, and that would be the condition to the zone change. Now, it may be that you come to zero agreement. And as Randy says, you know, that's, the zone change would still go through. The zone change would not go through.
Would not go through, it would have to come back
It would have to come back.
council to vote on just the zone change without the condition.
And I want council's input on this, what your thoughts are, and I appreciate that. Dan, we're going to have to sit down and talk about real numbers on what's happening in our housing crisis in this area. I think,
Sure.
Dan English. So
Yeah.
I think that, you know, there's just some things that we have to start moving the dial, and it has to be in every conversation, I believe. So if council doesn't agree with me, that's okay, but I'm
open,
probably
but I
going to bring it
think
up.
I've got a pretty good handle on numbers too, so.
Okay, so the motion is to, Amy, go ahead.
Go ahead, I was just going to do what you're doing, so.
The motion is to postpone. It's what we're discussing now, and this would just be brought back in at the next council meeting, which I hear is in 3 weeks. And do you understand what would be brought back, Sean?
Sounds like a negotiated development agreement or something very close.
Okay, so
So not going through everything again, but bringing some sort of agreement to.
with the zone change, and what would the development agreement then be, or would that be up to council at that time?
Well, initially, it would be a negotiation between the property owner and.
Oh, I see.
And staff. I understand that the issue is affordable housing or workforce housing.
Mhm.
So the development agreement would contain some, if the owner agreed, some kind of clause regarding that. And council would have to decide if that clause, if that provision is enough.
Amy?
I am very open to having the discussion, or staff having the discussion with the applicant about a development agreement. My preference is, with Randy's nod, that we move forward with this request and then add the condition that a development agreement discussion occurs between the applicant and staff, and Sean coming back and to report at us at a future date. We just went through the whole public hearing, and I'd like to see this out, and I'm sure the applicant and staff and their time is so valuable. But that's my preference.
Randy?
Council has to approve any development agreement, so that would be the next step under your proposal. We would come back with a development agreement. If council says no to the development agreement, then that would be the end of the zone change as well.
Okay, so basically, we could move to postpone, do the hearing over again, or we can do the hearing and direct staff to come back with a development agreement. So you understand that, Kiki? So it would, if we could do it now, or we could do it in 3 weeks.
No, I'm hearing two different things, sorry.
I want you to be clear, so.
What you said and what Randy said didn't line up. So can you say that again, Randy?
My understanding of what Councilor Evans said is that we would move forward with an approval of the zone change with the condition that an acceptable development agreement be negotiated involving workforce housing. And in that case, then at the next meeting, presumably, the development agreement would be presented to council for approval or rejection.
And if it's rejected,
Then the condition for the zone change fails.
and so then the zone change doesn't go through?
Correct.
Okay. That's the part I needed to clear up. That's fine.
Candy, please.
And then we do it over again?
We can do it over again, or we can do it now.
But if
it
the zone
fails.
change fails,
If it fails.
It fails tonight.
then, or when the development agreement comes forward, then another application for a zone change would have to be made unless council said, go back and renegotiate the development agreement. I mean, that can go on
Or
for
drop
as
the
long as
condition.
necessary.
They could drop the condition at that time. When it comes
Yes.
back, they could reject the agreement and drop the condition.
Yes, theoretically.
So
And-
there's multiple avenues to postpone to still have this be a successful project.
Absolutely. Mr. Scheckler?
I withdraw my comment. I think it was answered.
Okay. Does anyone need medication? So we are going to vote on the motion to postpone this entire hearing and redo this again in 3 weeks. If there's any more discussion on that specific item.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I'm sorry
Christie.
to drag this out. I appreciate everything that Councilwoman Miller is saying, that yes, we have to start taking action if we want to impact workforce housing. My particular concern with this is we're kind of blindsiding the applicant right here. And there hasn't been any other discussion about a development agreement until right now. And maybe that's the process. Maybe it isn't until right now. So I'm a little torn on hamstringing them. I don't have any idea if it's going to impact them financially, or any of their building permits, or we just have no knowledge of any of that. And we're saying, let's table this. So Mr. Reeser didn't want to give any comment before, but maybe he should be allowed to at least help us understand if this is something we can all work together on, because that's our goal.
I think he's still, you'd have to come, I'd have to open the hearing again, and you could
Oh.
comment if you would like to.
If you want. If you don't want, okay.
He's good. Okay.
Sounds like he's good with your.
I think there's multiple ways that this can get done, after the discussion has happened, from what I've heard. So, we have multiple options by just postponing it. We're not tabling it, we're postponing it for the shortest period of time possible. And then there's multiple avenues that we can take until that time to get this done.
Okay.
So remember the motion here. Yes, Daniel Sector.
I was just going to say, I agree with Councilwoman Evans that we should approve it today, and then if there's a condition for a development agreement, it comes back. If the development agreement discussion goes south and there's no agreement, then we have another discussion about whether we should approve it despite the failure to have a development agreement that's
So we have
acceptable.
multiple,
So we have a multiple
options.
options. So I don't think we should postpone it. I think we should approve it subject to
that condition.
Condition.
Okay.
Then keep an open mind about whether or not that
Works out.
I just want to make sure our attorney is clear on what's going on. It's a very puzzled face.
Well, currently, there is only a motion to table
Yes.
on the dais. So either that motion needs to be withdrawn, or we need to do a vote on that, and there can be then another motion.
All right.
So I will withdraw the motion
And does the second withdraw?
Yes.
Second withdraws.
and then make a new,
Are you ready for all this?
We're back to
You do
square
it.
one.
Figured.
you've been fighting the findings.
I drew the short straw here. So I'll make the motion to approve without prejudice a zone change from MH8, 8 units per acre, to R17, 17 dwelling units per acre for a parcel measuring .522 acres located at 3620 North Fruitland Lane, based on the following findings and conclusions. This matter having come before the City Council on March 17th, 2026, to consider ZC 1-26, a request for a zone change from MH8 to R17 on a partial measuring .522 plus or minus acre. The applicant is Michael and Norma Reeser, and the location is 3620 North Fruitland Lane, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 83815. The City Council finds that the following facts, A1 through A12, have been established on a more probable than not basis, as shown on the record before it and on the testimony presented at the public hearing. I want to make special note of A7, and the goals that this project supports: community and identity. Coeur d'Alene citizens are well-informed, responsive, and involved in the community discussions. Goal CI3, Coeur d'Alene will strive to be livable for median and below income levels, including young families, working class, low income, and fixed income households. And goal GD, which is growth and development, to ensure appropriate high-quality infrastructure to accommodate community needs and future growth. Based on the foregoing findings of fact, the City Council makes the following conclusions of law. B1, this proposal is in conformance with the comprehensive plan. B2, public facilities and utilities are available and adequate for the proposed use. B3, the physical characteristics of the site do make it suitable for the request. B4, the proposal would not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood with regard to traffic, neighborhood character, and/or existing land uses. The City Council, pursuant to the foregoing findings of fact and conclusions of law, has determined that the requested zone change does comply with the required evaluation criteria, and the zone change request is approved with the following condition: that a development agreement discussion take place between the applicant and staff. And do I need to put the deadline of when that returns to council?
You could, you don't have to. We just don't know how long it's going to take.
Can I give it a padding of within the next 2 months?
I would, as soon as, I don't think you have to put, just as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
And that the development agreement has to come back for approval.
All development agreements come back to council for approval.
Okay, so let me just repeat that condition one more time because it's unusual. The development agreement discussion will occur between applicant and staff as soon as possible and come back to council for approval.
Are you good?
No, I'm not done. Sorry. This is long, you guys. I apologize. So I'll make a motion to adopt the foregoing findings in order and approve with one condition, the request.
Motion needs a second.
Second.
Motion has a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, we'll take a roll call.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Scheckler,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Now we're going to work on the ordinance approving a zone change from MH8, 8 units per acre, to R17, 17 dwelling units per acre for a parcel measuring .522 acres located at 3620 North Fruitland Lane.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Council Bill 25-1006, ordinance approving the zone change from MH8 to R17 for a parcel measuring .522 acres located at 3620 North Fruitland Lane.
Okay, so the motion right now would be to dispense with a rule.
How about we do that one first?
We can do that one first. Was that your motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure that we should approve an ordinance until we know if
Yeah, I
the
know we-
development agreement.
Oh, that's true.
Oh,
Because an ordinance has to be published within a certain period of time. If we pass the ordinance and we haven't got the development agreement finalized, it messes the entire process up.
City Attorney makes an excellent point, and just following the script here. But we
Which
went off
changed.
the script.
We went off script.
So I guess our business is concluded on this matter tonight. So thank you, Sean. Thank the applicant. And we will be coming back with the development agreement and the zone change at some point in the near future. Very good. So we're moving on to item K, which is executive session. Before we take the motion to go into executive session, I want Randy to kind of review what it is our task is coming forward and explain the rules to the public and to council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An executive session is allowed to consider the hiring of a public employee, such as the police chief and fire chief, where the qualities of the applicants are to be evaluated in order to fill the position. Therefore, an executive session can be held and council can discuss the applicants in executive session. Under the personnel rules, the department heads, which includes police chief and fire chief, are appointed by the city administrator. No council action is required for such an appointment. Mr. Jacobson, as interim city administrator, however, has a contract, and that contract provides that he cannot appoint or remove a department head without the consent of council. The police chief, again, and fire chief are department heads. The word appointment is used for both department heads in both the personnel rules and the contract. It's my legal opinion that Mr. Jacobson, following the executive session, has the duty to make an appointment or a recommendation for these public offices, and council then would take a vote on that. If council rejects that appointment, then Mr. Jacobson would have the opportunity, so he chooses to make another appointment, a different appointment. There is nothing in the personnel rules or state law or Mr. Jacobson's contract that would allow us to bypass that process and have council make the appointment. It is not council's duty as the legislative body to do that. Therefore, you will go into executive session. You'll have whatever discussion you wish. Again, you can't take a final vote in executive session. That has to be done in public. And we would come back out after executive session to either address a motion or an appointment or whatever you would like to do. The way the motion is worded currently is an appointment. You could, as council, also make a motion to make a conditional offer to someone as opposed to an appointment. To me, that's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but it also might lead us to have to come back to make the official appointment later after the conditional offer is accepted.
Does council understand these rules? Very good. We will entertain a motion to enter into executive session. Or not.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant Idaho Code 74206, Section 1A, to consider hiring a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent wherein the respective qualities of individuals are to be evaluated in order to fill a particular vacancy or need.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Scheckler,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Okay, we're in executive session. When we're done, we will be returning here to do deliberation and take a vote. Thank you. Calling the meeting of the Coeur d'Alene City Council back into order after executive session. Our task now is to appoint the fire chief and police chief. We're going to go in the order police chief first and then fire chief. This appointment is being made by the interim city administrator, and then council will vote to either approve or not to approve the appointment. Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It would be my recommendation to appoint Mr. Greg Yeager as the new fire chief. I'm sorry, police chief.
Okay, the appointment by the interim city administrator is to appoint Greg Yeager as the police chief. We need a motion and second by council to approve this appointment, or not.
Oh, I thought there was just going to be a roll call vote.
Do we have to have a motion?
Yeah, it's a motion to
We
approve.
have to have a motion by council. So council has, and the motion can be to accept this or to reject it.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to reject the recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Wood and seconded by English to reject the appointment. Any discussion by council? Seeing no discussion, we will do a roll call vote on the rejection.
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
No.
Miller?
No.
Gabriel?
No.
Scheckler? No. English?
Yes.
Motion fails 2-4.
So do we need to have a motion to approve?
If someone would like to make a motion, yes.
I'd make a motion to approve Greg Yeager as the new police chief.
Second.
Motion and a second, motion by Miller, seconded by Evans to approve the appointment of Greg Yeager as the police chief. Any discussion? Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have a motion. I'd like to just kind of explain what my thought process is here. From the very beginning, it was kind of pounded into my head at least that we had to respect and protect the integrity of the process. So I tried to do that from the very, very beginning. We had a process, and it's very difficult for me. I mean, I'm so very pro PD, and I like Dave Hagar, but we had a process, and it's tough for me to go against the process right now.
Any other discussion? Dan English.
If we didn't have an internal candidate, Dave Yeager was my first choice for the outside candidates. I thought he did well, had some good things, but we did have an internal. We had Dave Hagar, and we've known him, got to learn some new things through the process, and I am a strong believer of growing your own from within and supporting folks as they come up through the ranks and different things. And there's different, kind of juncture decision points that, if they're not really meant to be at the top, I trust the process that they'll kind of go off to a certain level. But I think that Dave Hagar has earned this, and if the vote goes as I think it's going to go, I will be disappointed very much, but I will also, support who, whatever the choice might be then.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councilman English. Dave Hagar has shown to be a stellar employee. He has served the city well. He, as an internal candidate, has been very strong. We do like to choose internal candidates any chance we get. He has spent over a decade working hard on behalf of the city of Coeur d'Alene. I have complete confidence in him, and my choice would be Interim Chief Dave Hagar.
Any other discussion?
I would just like to
I'm
say.
recognizing Kiki. I'm sorry, they're all interrupting. So.
It's like I always get the one who's not able to
Yeah.
interrupt. I just want to say that it was really a great process, and I think that 2 of the 4 candidates for police chief were just stellar in their interviews, and both could be wonderful for the city. I'm going with the choice that I thought had a little more experience in some of the areas, and I think I told council, he interviewed like Lee White, and I just felt like we had that opportunity with him, and I mean, no disrespect or discounting of Dave Hagar at all. He's a wonderful, wonderful human, so that's the direction I'm going.
Okay, let's do a roll call.
Wood,
No.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Scheckler,
No.
English.
No.
That is a tie vote.
The mayor will not be voting. I will not split the council. We will continue with the interim chief. Does the city administrator have another nomination for police chief?
No, sir, I would recommend. Sorry, this is new equipment for me. No, sir, I would recommend waiting until the permanent city administrator is on board, if that's council's decision, and to continue with Mr. Hagar as the interim chief.
Thank you. We'll be moving on to the second item, which is the appointment of a fire chief, and that goes back to you, Ron.
Your Honor, I would like to recommend Jake Beaker as the new fire chief and ask for council confirmation.
All right, we need a motion to approve the nomination of Jake Beaker as fire chief.
I would make.
Go.
Go. I would make a motion to approve Jake Beaker as our next fire chief.
Second.
Okay, motion by Miller, seconded by Evans to approve the appointment of Jake Beaker as fire chief. Is there any discussion? Christy Wood?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along the same lines, as if you can promote an internal candidate that's been loyal to the city, is a brilliant employee, and we have complete confidence in them, then you should. And I fully support Jake Beaker.
Any other comments? Okay, roll call vote, please.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Scheckler,
Yes.
I'd like to extend congratulations to Jake Beaker as our new fire chief. Is there any other comments for the good of the order?
Just to be clear that Dave Hagar will maintain his current role as acting chief.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments? We'll take a motion to recess, and I don't have it in front of me, but one of you good people should. A motion to recess for a workshop with Ignite CDA.
So moved.
No, we need to make it properly, please.
I gave all my stuff back.
I'll make a motion to recess to March 23rd, 2026 at noon in the Library Community Room located at 702 East Front Avenue for a joint meeting with Ignite CDA.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are recessed. Thank you.